Here to take a closer look at the troubling issue of women and HIV/AIDS, we are joined by Nazneen Damji. She is the Program Manager of Gender Equality and HIV/AIDS at UNIFEM, the United Nations Development Fund for Women. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let me start with a basic question. How widespread is the problem of women and HIV/AIDS?
If you're looking at it, you have to look at it in terms of regions. In Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, women are the most impacted. We're looking at data that says about 58% of those who are infected in sub-Saharan Africa are women. And then within that, young women are the most infected and impacted in sub-Saharan Africa. Again, we're looking at close to 75% of all the people living with HIV are young women. In other regions, the data is not so skewed. It's not so, the rates of infection amongst women is not so high, but they're steadily climbing. So we need to be cautious.
You mentioned sub-Saharan Africa a number of times, and I'm wondering what is it that makes women so vulnerable to the disease in that part of the world?
That part of the world has been hit the hardest simply because there have been fewer chances for empowering women. There have been fewer opportunities where women are getting access to resources, access to services. There's been a lack of acknowledgement of the need to provide information, but also the tools and the power to use that information to protect themselves.
And we just heard in this report, and I think one of the most troubling aspects was that most countries in the world are not properly reporting their responses when it comes to the impact of HIV and AIDS on women. And I'm wondering, well, why does that really matter? And what does that really tell us about these countries as far as their response to the problem of AIDS in women?
So let me take that in two parts.
Yeah.
The first part is the importance of such a scorecard on women and AIDS. It provides a tool. It provides an opportunity to have dialogue. It provides an opportunity for stakeholders to hold governments to account by saying, this is how you rated on the scorecard. What are you doing about this? So for one, it's a place for dialogue. It's a place, an opportunity. It's an entry point to dialogue. The second point is really, does it really reflect what is happening on the ground? Does it really reflect the situation in terms of what access to services people are getting? And the answer to that is not necessarily. It's a chance to report. It's a chance for governments to come together and to say this is how we're doing, but it doesn't necessarily reflect accurately what is happening in reality on the ground. And
is this the problem, say, with accounting, or is this a problem with the attitude of the leadership in that country?
I think it's a problem of both. I don't think it's a question of the leadership as much as it's a question of finding the accurate ways in which to monitor and to track. So the indicators that are being currently used for this Declaration of Commitment on HIV and AIDS are not necessarily the most robust indicators to track the whole host of women's vulnerabilities. So we need to do better, and this is an opportunity to start that dialogue.
Well, we don't have a lot of time left, but what do we need, or how do we do better?
We basically need to take a more multi-sectoral approach to the AIDS response. Right now, the AIDS response tends to be very limited in terms of coming from a medical perspective. And while those are all very important, it's important to look at women's economic vulnerabilities, their legal empowerment, their access to political rights, where we have evidence from work that's been going on that if you do address those issues, you're going to see a reduction in HIV prevalence.
Nazneen Damji, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.